Greetings and welcome to the ROI Clear podcast. My name is Ray Hightower, and today we are fortunate to have as our guest Mr. Hubert Johnson. Hubert Johnson is the owner of Guardian Tax Law, and we're going to dig into tax law, and we're going to do it in such a way that you are going to be engaged and curious. So, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Hubert Johnson. Hubert, welcome to the ROI Clear podcast.
Thank you, Ray. Glad to be here.
Very, very glad to have you here. And to kick things off, why don't you give us an elevator pitch? I'm going to tell our audience, for those who are new to the ROI Clear podcast, Hubert Johnson is on an elevator with someone he wants to influence. So I'll ask you, what would you say to that person in the course of an elevator ride?
So quick elevator pitch is the IRS is worse than ever. Dealing with taxes is worse than ever, especially for businesses. And what I tell people day in and day out, it shouldn't cost you an arm and a leg to get some free advice to help steer your business in the right direction. And we save businesses all the time by helping them know what they need to do, deal with the tax issues and filing and compliance issues so that they can focus on their core business, what they do best. And once you free that up and deal with the tax issues, people tend to thrive doing what they do best in their business.
Excellent.
So many times.
You're a specialist in dealing with tax issues, and because of what you do as a specialist in that area, the clients that you help, the businesses that you help, are able to focus in their area of specialization, and everybody wins.
Absolutely. I've got some great stories about that.
Yeah. Well, we certainly want to explore those. To start off, maybe you could outline for us the difference between what you do and what a CPA does. A lot of us have hired CPAs and we engage CPAs, but I would imagine that there are other cases where we might need a tax lawyer. Maybe you could compare and contrast the two for us.
So not to make fun of CPAs, but to do exactly that. They're kind of the nerds of the tax world, the math nerds. So they go in, they crunch the numbers, they get the numbers from the bookkeepers. They look at how can we save you money, how can we, from year to year. And the better CPAs will help with tax planning, how to save money moving forward, not only on your past due taxes and get your taxes done correctly, but prepare you for savings in the future. So when you look at the tax world, really it is tax preparation is the first third really of that work. And you have CPAs, the tax preparers, enrolled agents in that world. The middle third is when the IRS fights you or questions your tax return, and that's the audit world. We don't really dabble in the audit world. We do if needed. But again, when it comes to all the numbers, when we do, we usually are using a CPA as well. But we deal with the high-end negotiations and really the collections world, which is what most CPAs avoid. Because here you're looking that IRS analysis and collections is completely different than what's on your tax return. So it throws people for a loop. So, for example, there's a lot of things that aren't taxable. For example, disability payments, especially veterans disability, doesn't go on your tax return. It is absolutely part of the picture when you're looking at collections. And I can give plenty of examples. For example, depreciation. It's a legitimate business expense on your tax return. Collections, it's not a real expense, so they ignore it. So which on your P&L can be treated very differently depending on what lens you're looking at.
Bottom line, you may have two different P&Ls depending on, one that reflects depreciation, one that does not. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Well, we don't do a separate P&L. We use the same P&L, but there are things that they'll go through and not allow, which will change the numbers that you're looking at. So when you're in trouble, when the IRS is coming after you, that's really when we excel, and that's really our forte. We're very specialized even within the tax world. We deal with payroll liabilities. We deal with offer and compromises, saving businesses, individual personal. We also deal with SBA defaults. So any big issue when the government is coming after you, state or local, and we also deal with sales taxes. That's the collections world. That's where we really thrive.
Got it. So to recap, there's the preparation world, the audit world, and the collections world. Preparation and audit, you may be dealing with a CPA there. But in collections, that's where you put on your cape and you jump in, and you may engage a CPA to assist you with what you're doing there. Is that a fair summary?
Absolutely. And there are plenty of people in the collections world that they try to do it all. They do the tax prep, the audit. And we've done audits before, but it's not our bread and butter. It's not, I mean, we can. But really, the collections world is our thing. And we don't even prepare returns because, one, we would charge attorney rates.
Yes. Oh,
So
yeah.
we work with CPAs and tax preparers across the country to get those prepared more affordably. And our business model is if we do our job right, we don't get repeat business. When you come in with a mess, we clean up the mess, we put you on a path moving forward with a good preparer, someone that's going to help you stay on top of your tax issues, and then you don't have to pay our rates moving forward. We come in, we fix the mess, and we put you on a great path moving forward where you'll know exactly what needs to be done.
Excellent. Now, you know what? I'm curious. When did you decide that was the path, that was the specialty of law you wanted to focus on? I mean, was it when you were an undergrad, perhaps pre-law, or was it while you were in law school? Let's wind back the clock a few years and talk to a younger Hubert Johnson who's making that decision. What went into that decision?
Life.
Okay.
If you would have told me in law school that I would end up being a tax attorney, I probably would have quit.
Why? Tell us about that. That sounds like an interesting story.
So I actually wanted to be an environmental law attorney, which a lot of idealistic people did. And, again, very pro-capitalistic. I wanted to find a happy medium where you could help businesses grow, but also be responsible. I grew up in the Sacramento area where, if you've ever heard of Aerojet, it was huge for 50 plus years in the area, had a lot of great jobs, but also polluted the water table and part of Sacramento's southern part. And it's still an issue today. So I have kids. I want them to drink clean water. So to me, that really appealed to me. And then life happened. My wife got very sick straight out of law school, and she was in the hospital for a long period of time. And so I ended up taking whatever job I could. Ended up being first as a prosecutor. Second job was as a tax attorney. And when I first interviewed for the job, afterwards I was talking to my brother, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm just helping people that didn't pay their taxes or didn't plan this and that." My brother told me, "Hold the phone." He said, "Helping people to save money in taxes is one of the most patriotic things you can do." He's a little bit of a libertarian.
Yes. Okay. Got it.
And I fell into it. I've been doing it ever since for 15 plus years now. And the funny thing is, I took federal income tax in law school, didn't like it, didn't enjoy it. I have now taught it on the graduate level.
Wow.
Which I would have never guessed in law school. One of the classes I most disliked just didn't appeal to me. All the numbers, I'm more of a, and that's the thing, when you get in collections, it really is taking a step back. I'm more of a big picture kind of guy.
Right.
And that's what can really help people cut through the morass, get done what they need to, know what their obligations are, so that dealing with the IRS is stressful. It's horrible.
Yes.
Especially in the States, it can be even worse. And helping get people out of that so that they can focus on doing what they do best. That's what we love doing.
Can you tell us a story of where you rescued a business owner or a business here? I'm sure you have several, and anonymize it will, but that will help us to understand more of what you're doing. I mean, I love the quote from your brother. He said, "Helping people to save money on taxes is one of the most patriotic things you can do." That's going to resonate with a lot of our audience. But can you tell us a story about that?
Well, real quick, everything I do, and I will pull fast ones on the IRS, absolutely. But I don't do anything that I don't disclose to the IRS.
Yes, right.
So again, it is so important. I want to be very clear that I will not do anything illegal. Anybody that gives you the advice, run the other direction.
Right.
But great example, and this is a friend from church, and he knew what I did. We were pretty good friends, and he came to me, and he had owed about $100,000 to the state and about $150,000 to the IRS. So he was did custom copper sheet roofing. So
Hmm.
he did custom copper roofing, high end, only in the Bay Area because the people in Sacramento weren't. They didn't. His product was too expensive.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Nicely. So
Yes.
he did custom jobs in the Bay Area, but he lived in the Sacramento area. But he had his wife doing his bookkeeping for her.
Mm-hmm.
His wife was not an accountant, was not
Mm-hmm.
a bookkeeper, and she messed the whole thing up.
Ah,
To be
okay.
nice,
Yes, yes.
but she just didn't know what she was doing. He asked her to help, and she did her best, and it turned out to create a giant nightmare for them.
Mm.
And to give you an idea of the kind of people these were, very down to earth people. They lost their home in the 2008 mortgage crash,
Oh.
and so they swore they would never have a mortgage again. So
Mm-hmm.
they bought 5 acres and put a tiny 800 square foot home
Mm-hmm.
on the property, or built it on the property,
Yes.
which was fine until fast forward 10 years. Now they have 3 kids and this 800 foot square home. And he didn't know he could afford it. He didn't know what was going on with his business, and he has this huge tax issue. So he
Mm.
calls me up, Hubert, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
So I came in, reviewed the situation, got a CPA on board, got
Yes.
a business attorney on board,
Mm-hmm.
and a bookkeeper. So the bookkeeper to run the books, get everything straightened out, the CPA to file the tax returns and help make sure that he's on track moving forward, and the business attorney to make sure he has his business set up correctly. I think we formed an LLC, put him in place, and help him save money there, and also give him good business advice moving forward.
Right.
I dealt with the IRS and the state head on, stopped the collections, got him some breathing time, breathing space. And the funny thing is, he went to work, but at first he had no idea what his profit is. And how typical is that of business owners?
Yes, it is.
So there's a couple of reasons to really get on top of your P&Ls and work closely with the bookkeeper. And I'll get to that after the story. But this guy said, okay, I've got this team, this tax team, and they're helping me. And I was just a piece of it. He went to work. He got an extra crew going. He's like, I don't want this monkey on my back. And in a year's time, he paid off the IRS. And a little over a year, he paid off the state, earned $250,000, paid it all off. Just doing what he did best. And he wasn't going to have any future problems because he had a team behind him. We made sure he was taken care of with both. And then moving forward, I stepped out of the picture. He had the business attorney, the CPA, the bookkeeper to make sure he was straight moving forward. He then invested in his home, doubled the size of his home, landscaped it, put in a swing set, fence. I mean, really dolled his house up. And now he has a 1,600 square foot home for his growing family, and they love it.
Wow.
And to me, we took care of the tax issues, and so he could go and be as productive as possible, and he killed it. And again, I love seeing that. Now, to
Yes.
segue to why it's so important, have you heard about the increase in penalties for failure to pay estimated tax payments?
I wasn't aware of that, but you've piqued my curiosity.
So in November of 2023, our lovely Congress, and this is bipartisan, sticking it to businesses and people.
Wow.
So they raised the rate, and it's been going up with inflation. So it was 3%. In November, they raised to 8%.
From 3% to 8%.
Exactly. And so if you are not making enough estimated tax payments quarterly, at the end of 2024, everybody, if you just pay your taxes at the end of the year, you're going to get hit with an 8% penalty on your total tax bill. It doesn't matter if you pay the whole thing off by April 15th. And if you don't, they're going to, at 8% penalty will be on top of all the other IRS penalties. So the next estimated tax payment for the third quarter is coming up on Monday, the 16th, because the 15th falls on Sunday. So I'm trying to raise awareness, tell people, look, get these estimated tax payments in, avoid as much of the penalty as you can. But I am telling my clients and talking to this with all kinds of CPAs, make sure your clients are getting quarterly numbers.
Yes.
So you can make those estimated tax payments. And they don't have to be completely accurate, but you can use it based on the prior return. But a lot of people, if they wait till the extension, which is coming up on September 16th, if they wait for the business filing date September 16th, you're 9 months past the year. You don't have good numbers. You
Right.
can't use the P&L to see what's going on with your business.
Sure.
So
Sure.
if you can work with the bookkeeper or CPA to get those numbers quarterly, you can know what's going on with your business, make regular informed decisions. 2, you can make your estimated tax payments. And 3, feel comfortable knowing that you're ahead of the curve throughout the year.
Right. You're running into a lot of people after they haven't done those things.
Yeah, exactly.
How often do people seek out your advice proactively?
Well, they normally aren't most of my referrals come from CPAs. There's a lot
Yes.
of people that we do advertise, et cetera, and get a lot of that information. But I love it when someone comes up and they're like, there's been an issue. We took out money out of our 401k, something's happening, and they call us and we are in the driver's seat before the IRS is coming after them with collections.
Mm-hmm.
Great example. I had a business, the CPA was having mini strokes, didn't know about it. And his memory was not there. There were issues going on, and W-2s, W-3s were not filed timely.
Mm.
The penalty for that was $360,000.
Oh.
So that's when the CPA was like, I need help. I can deal with getting the books redone and correcting the W-2s, W-3s, getting all that submitted, or the W-4s with it. But I need someone to handle the IRS because they had a revenue officer assigned, or that was going to be assigned. We got on before the revenue officer was even assigned.
Mm-hmm.
We got all their information together, and I sat down with the owner and the office manager for the business with the revenue officer, and already had a stack of paper already organized, tabbed, everything ready to go. The first 15, 20 minutes, the revenue officer was breathing fire, all the horrible things that can happen to them, how they can shut down their business, padlock their doors if they don't get all this stuff in.
Right.
And then I said, well, you want 433B, you want the substantiation, P&L, balance sheet, all this. Here it is. And she looked at it and she goes, are you serious? So yeah, here it is. And then she's like, oh, well, this is going to go a lot easier.
Wow.
So no collection activity happened. We set them up on a payment plan. And because we were correcting everything, they paid in $91,000 before the IRS finally went in and corrected everything. We had a good reason for what happened. Again, the mini strokes was a health issue.
Right.
And we got the full $360,000 penalty reversed. So they got a refund of $91,000.
Oh.
The funny thing is, this is a doctor's office. They came to me like, well, what did you really do? I was like, you don't remember her breathing all that fire? That's all the stuff that typically happens.
Yeah.
When we get it proactively, we can prevent all of that, make it seamless. Similar case, I had a shipping company hire me. Revenue officer was already assigned. They already had a CPA that was working on it, but again, wasn't their forte, I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they had deadlines coming to turn in all their documents. And so they have to schedule a visit to go out and interview the business. Now, if that's not stressful, I don't know what is.
Oh, yeah. And going on site to your office to interview you. Interview is probably a kind word for what actually happens.
We'll interview you, walk around the business, see what they can haul off an auction. So this is about an hour and a half away, and we drove out there. When this happens, we try to be there personally. But we represent clients all across the country, so sometimes we're there telephonically. But I showed up, and it was funny. And I've worked with this gentleman many times since, have a good working relationship with him. He's no longer here in the local office. But same thing, he was telling her, I don't know why people hire attorneys. I'm like, this is a violation of her right to representation. I didn't say that. Just kind of, he kind of started off there. Why do you have an attorney here? Blah, blah, blah. And then he said, well, I need A, B, C, D, and E. And I pulled the stack out. Here it is. And he went through, looked at it. It was tabbed for him, all accessible for him. And he's like, oh, I've never seen this before.
Wow.
So took the case, flipped it on its head. All of a sudden, we're working with him because they have certain boxes they need to check. The IRS needs to check off certain things. You have to
Sure.
have your tax returns filed. You have to be current on your estimated tax payments. And I'm kind of diving into the weeds, so slow me down if you need to.
No, this is good. This is good.
If you help them, the IRS, check the boxes they need to, it allows them to get the case off their desk, which is what they want. They're overwhelmed, they're overworked. And so when you do that, there's times where they're not getting the resolution they want. We're getting a hardship, or we're going to do an offer and compromise. But if we proactively help them check the boxes so they can get the case off their plate, you can get a better resolution. You can resolve the case faster. Now, the IRS right now, there's nothing quick or fast about the IRS.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But it creates what could be a nightmare scenario and makes it so much easier.
If you can help the IRS to check the boxes on their checklist proactively and help them to get the case off of their desk, you stand to get a better settlement. Is that a fair statement?
You can, well, first of all, it's a lot easier this is a negotiation. It's a
Yes.
lot easier to get someone on your side rather than where you're at loggerheads with somebody.
Oh, yes, right.
And when that starts developing, I've stepped into cases. I chuckle.
No, go ahead. You're having flashbacks.
This is a company manufactures small airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
Had about 40 employees, and they had ongoing concerns. So my very first call to the IRS, my very first contact with the revenue officer, she had been on the case for a while. They had been yanking around for quite some time, and I was just another attorney on the case.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first had my first call with her, she told me there was no way, and this is verbatim,
Yes.
there was no way I was going to get a stay of execution on this one. What do you say to that?
Did you say hold my beer?
Well, I laughed. I'm
Okay,
like,
yeah.
okay. She's like, well, what's funny? It's like, well, I've never heard of it quite referred to like that. And she chuckled and she goes, well, they kind of have it coming.
Yeah, okay.
I got
stay of execution is pretty drastic, yes.
I got a 2-week hold. Just because
Okay.
I made her laugh,
Oh.
kind of, okay. So I was very nice. When I'm getting what I want, I'm pleasant as pie. I'm like, yes, sir, no, sir. How can I kiss your butt, sir? Just
Yeah, diplomacy, right? Yeah, diplomacy.
absolutely.
Yeah.
As soon as I got off that phone, I sent them an email. I sent them a letter. I blew up their receptionist number. And here's the problem. They were used to, every time they hired an attorney, it would buy them a little more time. Every time they would play games and just jump to another firm, it would buy them a little bit more time. But when you're playing games with the IRS, eventually knives come out. And she was ready to tear them apart.
Yeah, okay.
Guess what they did in those 2 weeks?
What did they do?
Nothing. I blew up their receptionist email, or I was emailing, but I blew up her phone, her voicemail. When that was full, I dug up one of the owner's cell phone numbers, filled his voicemail. It wasn't every day, but it was pretty much every other day. Guys, the hammer's going to drop. She's ready to, pay attention, respond. The deadline was Friday morning. Thursday evening, all the levies went out. So I got a call Friday morning from them. We have over 150,000 in our accounts that's seized. And their first question was, how did you let this happen?
Oh.
And I didn't laugh, but I said, okay, you want to know what I've been doing? Here's everything I've done. Here's every single call, because we record everything. You have to record everything and document your case. Yeah. Like I called this day. Oh, the reception's voicemail was full. I dug up the owner's cell because it was and then I called all these different times. I'm like, where have you guys been?
Right.
Oh, our receptionist was on vacation. But what about this owner? Oh, he didn't respond. I'm like, guys, And they said, well, what do we do? Because this is going to put us out of business. I said, go file a business bankruptcy. And
Wow.
if you think, as a tax attorney, our fees are expensive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the last minute, they had to go file for a business bankruptcy to stop the levies. But now, once you file a bankruptcy, you are no longer in control of your company.
Right.
So I have a worse story if you want to hear it.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, how was that one resolved? What is the resolution for that one?
I don't know, because once they went to a business bankruptcy, it's now in the bankruptcy court's hands. You take it out of the IRS's hands, but now you have the bankruptcy judge and the trustee that are now in charge of your case and in charge of your assets once you file that bankruptcy.
Got it. You know what? What's on my mind and what is probably on the mind of some of our listeners and viewers, what steps can business owners take to avoid those worst case scenarios? Because you've described some worst case scenarios. You've described a very proactive way that you handle it, handling the check boxes for that IRS revenue agent, certainly, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can they do? Like you're describing what you do when you're in the bear cave fighting the bear with a sword. How can that business owner avoid getting into that cave in the first place?
Being proactive,
Yes.
calling and getting good advice early. And we step into plenty of cases where we're stepping into the bear cave and we're going toe to toe and we're fighting. But if you understand how this works, there are times that we're absolutely adversarial. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
calling them out. I'm telling them that they're ridiculous, but I'm doing it in a professional manner. You're wrong. Here's why you're wrong. Here's
Mm-hmm.
the proof that you're wrong, that I'm going to fax you from the IRS rules and regulations.
Right.
But whenever you correct someone, you have to come back nicer than ever, saying, because nobody likes to be corrected, especially in
Yes.
professional
Yes.
capacity. So it's about having those negotiation skills and understanding what they need. And when they understand that you're not there to fight them, but to help resolve the case. So one of the worst things you can do is kick the can down the road or the IRS, bury your head in the sand. So if you have an issue, if you're stressed out about something, give us a call, get a free consultation. We don't do high pressure sales.
Mm-hmm.
And my office manager teases me. He says that I make people cry. Because we sit down, we have that consultation, either the phone or in person or by Zoom, whatever works for our clients. When people take that burden off their shoulders, I've had people that were ready to commit suicide.
Mm.
I've had people where, I mean, this has been, affecting their elderly parents. It is such a weight on their shoulders that they don't have to carry.
Right.
And again, finding out that, okay, I know what I need to do. Here's the path moving forward. And I have someone that's going to guide me through this can be such a relief.
Yes. Right. Yeah, you're helping families right there. If they're in over their heads and they've kicked the can, and face it, if somebody doesn't specialize in tax law, those notices can look very intimidating. So yeah, I'll deal with that later because I'm going to deal with what I know how to do. But when you come in and you deal with that, you deal with those challenges. Yeah, I can see you're taking the weight off of them. You're taking a huge weight off of their shoulders. Where did you learn what you know about human nature? Because as I listen to you, you're not just a lawyer. Honestly, Hubert, listening to you, you didn't get this in your law books in 3 years of law school. You know some things about how people behave and respond to pressure. Where did you learn that?
I don't know. I've done a few different things. I served in the Navy, where you're in the military, you learn a lot of different things.
Okay.
I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, where we helped people
No way.
change their life,
Yes.
improve their life, and come to God, come to Christ.
Yes. Yes.
And so helping people is just something that's part of what I guess my personality. I sound like I'm being a braggart,
No, that's
but
right.
it is something magical when you see a family change for the better, when you
Right.
improve someone's livelihood. I've also coached. So I am I coached baseball for 12 years. I coached soccer for 16. I now referee with my sons. I've umpired baseball, and dealing with people in tense situations is something I enjoy most of the time. Sometimes I want to throw all the parents out of the game.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, there are a lot
So
of life experiences that have come together for that. Certainly, yeah, I see that. It shows in what you're doing. We are actually coming towards the end of our time together. This has gone quickly. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it, and I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure that our viewers and listeners are of the same mind. As we wrap up, tell us, what are some things that you're reading as you sharpen yourself, or what podcasts are you listening to, or whatever? What do you do to sharpen that saw between your ears?
well, I have a TV show that I do daily. And so I'm constantly reading news, reading up on the IRS notifications. Um, I'm speaking I've lectured across the country teaching tax professionals how to do this work. And I have another one I'm doing in January where I'll
Yes.
be talking to a room full of CPAs, financial planners, and enrolled agents. Um, and it's just staying on the cutting edge, dealing with the IRS in the trenches. And a lot of that credit goes to my staff. I want to give them huge kudos too. I don't do the majority of the casework anymore
Yes.
because I have amazing staff behind that supports me and allows me to focus on talking about how to help people in tax
Yeah.
situations.
Yeah, you've built up some solid systems and a great staff, and because of that, you can go out and talk to people who will need the help, and then you bring them into the systems. Excellent, excellent. And then finally, how can people get in touch with you?
So our main office number is 520-485-7371. Like I said, we do a free consultation, no pressure. I tell people, look us up online. If you're going to hire anybody, look it up online. Our website is at guardiantaxlaw.com. Check out our Google reviews. But one thing you mentioned real quick was IRS letters. There are so many scams out there. People get, and they're very prevalent. They're worse than ever. A lot of companies will send out mass mails designed to scare people into calling them. We review letters for free. So if you ever just want to fax us, email us a letter, is this bogus? What is going on here? We'll review it and give you an answer for free. We don't mind doing that.
All right. That's good to know. Reviewing bogus letters, because yeah, those wow, scams are all over the place, aren't they? All right.
Exactly.
Hubert Johnson, it has been a pleasure having you here on the ROI Clear podcast. We've learned a lot, and at some point we got to have you back because you've got some great stories, man.
I would love to.
Thank you. And thank you for engaging the ROI Clear podcast. At ROI Clear, we buy multifamily apartment properties, we improve them, and we give people a great place to live. At the same time, we give investors an opportunity to enjoy capital preservation, tax advantages, and a solid return on investment. If you'd like to know more, click the link to roiclear.com down below. We look forward to speaking with you.